This has been a very rough week for Israel, as 11 Israeli lives have been lost due to an upsurge of terrorist attacks on the citizenry of this country. Jews and Arabs alike are suffering here as a result of terror. Yes, this has been a scary week because 11 Israeli lives have been lost due to terrorist attacks happening in and around this country. Palestinian terrorists kills 5 in Bnei Barak shooting spree. 5 people were killed by a Palestinian terrorist who opened fire on passerbys in Bnei Barak on Tuesday night. Now that Bnei Barak area is populated by the ultra-Orthodox Jewish population. This was marking the 3rd deadly terror attack in Israel in 8 days' time. The gunman was killed by 2 police officers following a rampage just before 8 p.m. that saw him open fire on people out walking, riding bikes, or driving in their cars in the city east of Tel Aviv. One of the 2 officers who sustained injuries in the incident later died of his wounds in the hospital. Well, anyways, this is all preceding a lead-up to the month of Ramadan, the holy month in Islam. And so Israel is facing a wave of terrorism. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said, "The security forces are at work. We will fight terrorism with persistence, diligence, and an iron fist." And I certainly hope so, or there are going to be massive demonstrations from the Israeli public as a result. 4 of the victims were declared dead at the scene, with the 5th, a police officer, Amir Khouri, age 32, a Christian Arab, was killed also by this terrorist, and that's sad to see. So Jews and Arabs suffer alike due to Islamic Jihadist terror attacks. We should not be like Cain, who was of the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own deeds were evil and his brother's righteous. That's what's written in 1 John chapter 3, verse 12. Defense Minister Benny Gantz ordered the bolstering of police forces with 1,000 Israeli Defense Force soldiers following a string of these deadly terror attacks. So remember, we've had 11 Israelis killed within the last 8 days, and this is really unprecedented and has not happened in years like this. So now Gantz has ordered a deployment of 1,000 soldiers to reinforce the police due to the terrorist attacks. IDF Chief Aviv Kochavi said at the meeting, quote, "The IDF is prepared for a variety of scenarios, is acting and will act as necessary to maintain the daily routine of Israeli residents." So we want to have that peace and security amongst us all, and also for you who are tourists coming to visit Israel after a long break of at least 2 years. We want you back. We want you to feel safe. And by the way, you are safe. You will be where you should be at the right time in the right place. So come visit Israel. We will do our best to protect everybody here 24/7. So the long and short of this whole story is Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said Israel is dealing with a new wave of terrorism. So now Israel is also turning to our neighbor in Jordan to prevent this violence, with President Herzog and Gantz, who are going to visit King Abdullah. Israel has pushed closer to Jordan in a massive effort to prevent an outbreak of Israeli-Palestinian violence next month that could destabilize both countries. Not just we will suffer, but Jordan will suffer as well. President Isaac Herzog is set to make the first ever public and official visit to Jordan, either by himself or by any of his predecessors since the country's founding in 1948. I didn't even know that, by the way. But the reason is past presidents and Herzog have gone to Jordan, but always in secret meetings that were not publicized. We only heard about it after the fact. Herzog will meet with Abdullah in his palace, and just one day after our defense minister Benny Gantz has gone himself. Abdullah on Monday made a rare visit to Ramallah. Now that's the capital city area of the Palestinian Authority in what the news organizations call the West Bank, and I call Judea and Samaria, because Judea and Samaria are the biblical heartland of Israel, and there's plenty of archaeology and history to line that up with the facts. Anyways, so President Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority see that there's a threat of religious fervor, And that could be caused by the overlap next month of the Passover for the Jewish people, Easter for the Christian community, and Ramadan. So we really need to watch and pray. There's no other way at this time of day. Yeah, you got it. Okay. And by the way, if you want to receive the email version of the VFI news, then write to info@visionforisrael.com or sign up at www.visionforisrael.com. I love you all. Okay. So anyways, back to the news. Giant missile detecting balloon begins operational use over northern Israel. I've seen this balloon. It's incredible. The military on Tuesday officially received a massive new balloon equipped with an advanced missile and aircraft detection system from the Defense Ministry. The radar-based system deployed in the north at an unspecified date is part of a general effort by the Israeli Air Force to improve the country's air defenses, particularly in the north. You know, we've had some Iranian drones come through Iraqi airspace and Syrian airspace, and we've had to shoot these things down. I tried once actually using my golf club with golf balls to shoot some of these things down, but I didn't get a hole in one, but it was an idea anyways in the time being. Anyways, he added that the system would make the Air Force more prepared and assist it in continuing its mission, maintaining security in the skies of Israel. The detection system is known as Elevated Sensor, or Sky-Do. Not Sky News, but Sky-Do. Finally, this is a very interesting poll, and I want you to take notice. This poll was done by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research. It showed that if presidential elections were held today, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh would defeat Mahmoud Abbas. If only the two were running, Haniyeh would receive 54% of the votes and Abbas 38%. This is pretty serious because Hamas is a committed terror group. In fact, they're both terrorists, to be quite honest. But what they're saying is that more than either Abbas or Haniyeh being elected to president, the Palestinians that were polled, which was the number of 1,200 people, said they would rather have Marwan Barghouti, who is a convicted terrorist with blood on his hands, serving 5 life sentences for orchestrating attacks during the Second Intifada. He would overwhelmingly win, and that's scary. That's really scary news. A total of 84% consider Palestinian Authority institutions to be corrupt, while 69% said the same of Hamas institutions in the Gaza Strip. Remember, this is a poll amongst the Palestinians themselves. They think both the Palestinian Authority and Hamas are corrupt by huge percentages. Asked to choose the most effective means of ending the Israeli occupation, as they call it, and building an independent Palestinian state, the public split into 3 groups. 44% chose armed struggle, 25% negotiations, and 24% popular resistance. Additionally, 70% oppose on resuming Palestinian-Israeli negotiations unconditionally, and 64% oppose dialogue with the U.S. under President Joe Biden, which anyhow, I understand a lot of the reasons why. But what we can gather from this that is very serious is that still 3/4 of the population of those polled amongst the 1,200 want to choose armed struggle and wipe Israel off the map. So how can there ever be peace between peoples when it's like that? It's just terrible. And finally, Iraq is beginning to understand this all because Iraq is building its own border wall along the Syrian border to block Islamic State Jihadis. The Iraqi government has completed a wall 12 kilometers long and 3.5 meters high along the Syrian border in Nineveh province to keep Islamic State Jihadis at bay. Iraq plans to expand the wall to cover more than 600 kilometers of its border with Syria. I wonder what's happening in the southwest of the United States these days. Yep, the other countries get it. Are you getting it in America? Anyhow, ISIS fighters have been attacking, and they've been getting their own fighters out of prisons in Iraq, launching battles including suicide bombs, prison riots, hostage-taking, and summary executions. So ISIS, once again, under the Biden administration and under the global leadership all over the world, is gone to sleep, and ISIS is on the rise again. That's unfortunate. Kurdish officials are nervous that ISIS might attempt a similar full-scale prison break at a massive al-Hol camp in northeastern Syria. Several smaller skirmishes have broken out. So we need to pray for the nation of Iraq. In fact, Lord, we just ask you to bless and protect the nations in the Middle East that align themselves with Israel. May there be an alliance of peace and prosperity for the nations of the Gulf states with Israel and those that are seeking to truly seek out righteousness and peace amongst friendly neighbors. Last but not least, I'm sorry to say that Iran barred women from attending a soccer match in a city called Mashdad. Yes, Iran has once again denied women entry to a soccer stadium to watch an international match, leaving hundreds of ticketed fans out, Iranian media says. The World Cup qualifier against Lebanon was won 2-0 by Iran, but about 2,000 Iranian women who had bought tickets for the Iran-Lebanon match were present in the perimeter of the Imam Reza Stadium but could not enter the stadium. Let me just say it like this. Women have overall been barred from sports stadiums in Iran, and that's due to radical jihadist Islam. But I want to pose another question to you as I close. You know, this left-wing progressive movement in the States that's always rallying around, women's rights and all that, I don't believe it for 1 second, because they're allowing all sorts of gender issues to compete in women's sports, which is demeaning to the women who have worked so hard to work out. Also, where is the left progressives complaining about other nations that deny women their rights to drive, to attend sporting events, to be amongst the public, just like everybody else in a free country? So anyhow, I'm pro-women, I'm pro-men, I'm pro for all of you. God bless you and shalom from Israel until I meet again with all of you.